Thanks for listening to the Business Banter Podcast. I'm Mark Poppen, and I run Funky Moose Digital, where I take care of web design, digital marketing, and e-commerce consulting. This is a podcast about how business owners got their start, what their drive is, which struggles they've faced, and how they've overcome them, what the future holds, and so much more. I hope you enjoy and learn something from this. Please make sure you subscribe in your favorite app so you can get notified when a new episode is live, and check out businessbanter.ca. You can follow me on social media. I'll put my profiles in the show notes. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that at buymeacoffee.com/Mark Poppen. In this episode, I chat with Pranay Prakash. He is the owner of Windsor.io. I will let him explain what they do.
I'm Pranay. I'm the CEO of Windsor.io. We create personalized videos at scale using AI and deepfake technology.
Deepfake technology, that always makes me think about, well, I mean, the word fake is in there, so.
Yeah, this has always been a fun one for us, but I don't love the word either. Unfortunately, we're a little late to the industry, but I sometimes wonder about this, right? So the way we see what we do is not dissimilar from sort of what Photoshop has done in the past, which was you could, for a very long time, you could take an image and then manipulate it, right? And for a long time, politicians used to do that back in the day. Yeah. You had Lincoln doing this all the way back in the late 1800s. And so we already had photo manipulation. I actually wonder what they used to call it back then. Obviously, they didn't call it photoshopping an image, right? But eventually, you get all of society to realize that, yep, this is a really normal thing. Cat's out of the bag. Let's start using it in a productive way. And at some point, if you're successful, people start calling it photoshopping. So yeah, that's hopefully where we go with this as well. Is I think we're still in the nascent, like early stages where you hear the word deepfake. It's only been used for politics and pornography now. We're still really early, but if Windsor is successful, it'll stop being used for nefarious things, and we'll have a better term for it.
So. Right. So tell me a little bit about the technology. What is Windsor, and what does it do exactly?
Sure. So really simply, it's also called mail merge for video, which basically means that you might be familiar with the way a marketer writes an email, and then the email has a variable, right? So it could be, hey, first name, and then this whole message below it. And then they can send it to 1,000 people. And for every single person, that email has first name be the actual person's first name. That's been around for a very long time. We've all been doing it. And it just helps you make these emails a little bit more personalized. We do the exact same thing with videos. So you could record a single video on camera. And again, you would basically just say, hey, first name, happy birthday. And now we're able to, you give us a list of all of your friends on Facebook, and we can give you, 2,000 videos where you're saying, hey, Mark, happy birthday. Hey, Pranay, happy birthday. And now it looks and sounds personalized. You can do a lot of things with that, but marketing, and more specifically e-commerce marketing, is where we've seen just the biggest value doing those things.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get in on Windsor when it was not officially out yet. I think you didn't even have a website.
No, you were our very first customer, actually.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Well, sweet. But yeah, it's very, very cool. So from my experience, I got to recall, because this was a while ago. I got to recall exactly how we did this. We got in touch. You had me read a script so that your AI would recognize my tone of voice and how I pronounce things, and then I would just record a standard hi. I think I used the word watermelon because that was a nice long word or something. I don't know. Hi, watermelon. My name is Mark, and yada yada yada. This is what I do, and if you want to, if you need anything, you can reach out to me. Something like that. And then I sent you that video. I think it's more automated now, but I sent you that video. Your AI did the magic, and I got a lot of feedback from people saying that, wow, it's impressive that you take the time to create a welcome video just for me. Yeah. So that was very, very valuable. So how did you come up with this idea, and why did you think where did that come from? Like, I need to do this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, just to first off, I wanted to say I'm really impressed that you remember that process. That was I think that was about a year ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
a little less than a year ago. But no, it's very similar to that today, but it's a lot more automated. It's a lot more streamlined today. But we typically start with you record a couple of minutes of footage. I think today we're at 30 minutes. We're getting it down to about 10 minutes soon, hopefully. But you record this footage on camera on like with our software. We then use that to create an AI model that we can use to start basically personalizing these messages to look and sound like you. And afterwards, you just record the videos you want to, right? So if I recall, you had a really simple video, which was just thanking somebody for a purchase after they bought a new record from your store.
Yeah, it was to introduce myself as the owner of the company, and if you have any questions, you can talk to me directly. Yeah.
Yep, precisely. And that's a really common use case we see today with e-commerce. We also help them with abandoned cart videos is really popular these days. I know we chatted a little bit about that when we
Yep.
were still learning about the industry. And a couple of other videos we help e-commerce stores a lot with. Um, but yeah, hopping over to sort of how we came upon the idea and even how we met you. That story is really it's something we tell a lot of people today, especially when we're fundraising and talking to investors of how we first found you and started working with you.
So that's a part I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, hit me.
So we were so my at the time it was just me and my co-founder, and we met in college and we'd been working on startups for basically it was still called Windsor, but it was completely different, and we were trying to get this thing off the ground for 2 years, kind of really struggling with getting any meaningful numbers. We saw our bank account starting to dry up. And so for us, it was like, okay, we had enough money and we didn't hire anybody. We stayed in we started like downsizing our apartment. We used to live together in San Francisco, which obviously is really expensive. But we started trying to really save money and try to figure out how we can make this last. And neither of us really wanted to go back and get a normal job. So it was, what can we do? And so we knew at that point we could make our budget last for one more year, which was a good amount of time. But for two people, that basically meant that we only really had one last shot to dedicate ourselves to anything.
Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, we wanted to make the best use we could off this 1 year runway to build something out, see it to completion, and hopefully get people to like it and use our money effectively, right?
So what was Windsor before you got into this video stuff?
Yeah, what we were trying to do was an analytics company, so very similar to Google Analytics.
Okay.
But we specifically felt like Google Analytics wasn't a great fit when you're a really small company, especially a B2B company, and you only have 10, 15 customers in the early days.
Yep.
It's still so valuable to know what every single customer is doing and who's a power user, who's not. It's something similar to Google Analytics. You want to see who's active and who's not on a
Mhm.
software product. But for a startup for that scale, Google Analytics had way too much information, was pretty complicated to set up, kind of require any of those graphs kind of requires you to have a significant amount of data for it to be valuable if you're
Yep.
running an A/B test.
Yep.
But when you only have 10 people, it's not that valuable. So we were trying to rethink what an analytics tool looks like for companies that small. I think the biggest issue we ran into was, in hindsight, it sounds like something that should have been obvious, was you can build an awesome product, but because they only have 10 to 15 customers, they can't pay a lot for your product.
Yeah, in hindsight, that sounds like, yeah,
Yeah,
you should have thought of that.
you should. um, I
And
think it was
and
a
for
really
and
cool.
actually for me, sorry to cut you off there, but
Yeah.
for me, I've been looking at alternatives to Google Analytics because their GA4 is
Mhm.
terrible. I hate its guts. I can't find what I'm looking for, and it's just frustrating to work with. So half the time, I'm not even looking at analytics for new websites anymore, which
Yeah.
is terrible as a digital marketer. So I've been looking for alternatives, but then you get into the realm of, well, there's this alternative. It does great job, but it's $200 a month. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just put up with Google Analytics.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's not what Windsor is anymore, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And it's funny you say that because we had a lot of competitors. We still have competitors in that old space that, are still doing the analytics thing,
Yeah.
and they're running into the same issues that you talk about, right? They
Yeah.
have a much better product than Google Analytics, but I couldn't recommend it to you only because it's $200 a month, like you
Yeah.
found out,
Yeah.
right? And it's tough. You have Google, and that's kind of the problem with Google as a monopoly almost, is how do you compete with free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were going from okay, so we've done that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we need to do something else with that year's budget.
Exactly. So as we're coming up towards the end, we're still, we spent 2 years on this, and it's kind of our baby, so we don't wanna give it up just yet. Um, but what happened, I think, in February of last year was Andrew, my co-founder, saw this video on. I think he bought something online. I think it was kind of similar to an Etsy store, like a really small store. And he gets this video. It's using a different software at the time, but he gets a video from the owner of this shop, who's kind of like on his phone, has recorded this video, and he's like, "Hey Andrew, thanks so much for your order and supporting a small store. I'm currently packing it up. It's going to be like shipping really soon, so let me know if you have any questions." Very similar to the video you had. But he took the time to like actually record it, and it only works because it's a really small business and you can spend the time to record on your phone. He only had a couple of orders, I think a month really at that time.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing that blew my mind was Andrew watched the video, watched the whole thing, felt the need to respond to him because somebody just took the time to like, record this video to you. And Andrew was excited enough to show me the video as
Right.
well. And I thought to myself immediately, I was like, wow, with an email, I would never do any of those things. Right.
No, because I get what 1,000 emails a day or whatever it is.
Right.
Unless it's really important, it sits in my inbox, and at the end of the month, I'll probably hit delete.
Yep. That's exactly how I've done every single email. So the fact that someone shared a video with me and was like, "This is really cool," I was like, "Wow, this is really cool."
Yeah.
I started trying to like do some digging, mostly because at that time I was still interested in seeing if it could help our product, if it could help us get more customers and what we were working on initially. And so I
Mhm.
looked around and noticed that, yeah, I don't want to spend my time recording videos every single day for people. And it's like, I'm not trying to say something that I don't already want to say. Like I still want to tell people that, thank them for the order, thank them for signing up, talk to them, give them a time to talk to me. And I'm always available to talk to personally. It's just not a great use of any of our times to like actually record, 1,000 videos saying the same
Yeah.
thing.
And it's not scalable.
It's not scalable. And so we noticed there were a few companies in that space that were doing sort of software that lets you record these. Nobody had any significant companies they were working with. It was all really small companies. So we felt like there was this great idea people were on, and there was this huge market that they could not touch because of just, a physical limitation of how much time somebody has in a day.
Yeah.
And it's not scalable, like we said. So we're like, okay, this probably wasn't possible a couple of years ago, but we have been seeing all of this new tech as engineers. Me and my co-founder, we're both software engineers. Like we've been, interested in all the technology and the research that's been coming out of deepfakes. I think we'd watched a couple of YouTube videos on some papers that came out. So the first thing we started doing was, okay, let's read some of these papers and see if it's possible to implement a solution to let us scale this, right? We knew exactly what we wanted to do, which was take a video, and the only thing that was personal was the person's name.
Yeah.
And our question was, is the technology good enough to do that? And we didn't know it at the time yet. So we spent, and this is where I'm like so fortunate to be working with Andrew. He's an absolute genius. He spent 1 week, I think, on this, maybe less than a week, and had this video where it was Biden's inauguration speech, I think, Joe Biden's inauguration speech. And it was just, he started with like, instead of "Dear fellow Americans," I think it was like, "Hey, Pranay." And then I continued with the speech. I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. And so what we quickly did was had me try to record some footage, see if we could simulate the same thing with me and a camera. And I was in San Diego at the time, tried to build a little like pseudo recording studio for myself, and then recorded some good footage. And the first thing we did was we tried to post it in a couple of different places and see where it would get, if there was any interest in this.
Yeah.
the natural thing was to go back to that same thing we saw. We saw it in response to an e-commerce purchase online. So it was like, okay, do e-commerce stores care about this?
Mhm.
And so I posted this on a few places, including r/Shopify on Reddit. That's how you
Yes.
found us.
Yes. I remember now. Okay.
Yeah.
And
That
and
one,
I think your message was very simple. It was a post. Okay, this is digging really hard now.
go for
It
it.
was a post where you kind of explain, not in detail, but it's something like we want to do personalized videos for for Shopify store owners, and we want to see if there's any interest for it. And I just happened to scroll past and I was like, oh, that, that sounds
Precise.
interesting.
Exactly. You and I think a couple other 1,000 people, which is awesome for us. But no,
Yeah.
I think the key thing there was, yeah, it was a really simple message, and my video was a little demo. Was basically I said something like, I forgot the name was, "Hey Candace" or "Hey David" or something like that, and I was like, I'm just gonna pretend like it was David, and I was like, "Hey David, this is Pranay. Wanted to say hi. By the way, I did not record this video just for you. This is actually a demo of our technology where I can make the first name say anything." Um, Fun fact at the time, really, so like sidebarring a little bit, but really fun fact at the time was, before Andrew built the technology, I just wanted to make sure people even cared about personal videos, even before we knew that it would, like, the technology would work. So while Andrew was working on trying to get the technology working, I did a little bit of digging and found out that David was the most common American name, like American English name. So
David?
yeah,
I thought it was John.
it's David, Michael, and John in that order, I believe.
Oh,
The way we did that is just look at
interesting.
baby names from 40 years ago. So I think the average name for a 40-year-old person today is David.
Ah, gotcha.
And so I just, even before the technology was ready, I literally recorded a video which just said, where I said, "Hey David, this is a deep fake video," and it wasn't, right? It was just a video of me saying, "Hey David." And when we did our first like batch of tests, I went through like this list of people online and just filtered it to people who were called David, and then sent it to like 100 people called David. So I didn't have to worry about the technology. It's just like, do people care about it at all?
So
Um,
that was an actual fake.
it was not, yeah. It was just really particularly sourced. I only hit, I only hit the messages people called David. So,
All right.
um, but yeah, when we posted that on Reddit, that on r/Shopify, that post really kind of blew up, and I think it was on number one on r/Shopify for almost 2 days. I think the key learning, by the way, for anyone who's going to do that, trying to like post things online, was it doesn't, almost every Reddit or subreddit hates people doing spammy marketing. Hey, use my software or use my product.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
don't think anybody responds well. Unintentionally, we didn't have a product. So I was just, my question, like you said, was just, hey, we're trying to work on this thing. Is this even interesting to you? There is no product today, but do you like the idea?
Yeah.
That played a lot better. People just loved it. And so I think anyone who's trying to, trying to find customers on one of these platforms, I think the better way to do it, to go around doing it, is don't ask people to sign up for a product. Just see if they even want your product, and they'll reach out like you did.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I noticed Reddit is an interesting marketing tool.
mhm.
If you do it right, it's great. If you do it slightly wrong, it's terrible.
Yeah, you get
Because
banned and
yeah, you get downvotes and nobody's gonna see it, and yeah.
and I've been there. That's happened to me in the past
Oh
too,
yeah,
very
I've been there.
respectfully. So
Yeah.
yeah, because as a business owner, you always want to try everything you can to, you always want to hustle. So
Yeah.
um the Reddit post did well. Like, we got a lot of people sign up. People wanted us to set up a mailing list, so we set up a mailing list in response to that. I got a lot of messages just saying, "Hey, I would pay for it today if you had the product," which was amazing compared to us struggling to get anyone to pay for our previous product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's at that moment I knew, we need to shut down what we were doing earlier. This is the future. This is what we want to do. And it was a little roller coaster next couple of days because we started building some demos. I think we probably only produced about 10 videos or something as the first demos because it was a really manual process still to get the deepfake to work and look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think somebody on that Reddit post, it kind of made its way to Twitter. And we had this one other person who was the CEO of Peel. They make phone cases, and they're really popular in the US. I think I used to own a Peel case myself, and so he saw us on Twitter, and he reached out from that post. I spoke to him, and I remember that first conversation with him was, "Hey, this technology looks really cool. He's been doing videos in the past himself, and he's like, I really want to scale this personalization." But I just want to know how expensive is this. At the time, we didn't know pricing, so we're like, yeah, we typically charge $1 per videos, even though there's no typical because we never did anything before that.
Right.
But we're like, yeah, we typically charge $1 per video. And he's like, okay, that's a little expensive. Will you go to 75 cents? I was like, sure. Anything is better than nothing.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure. And then he's like, okay, but I want to run a small test first. So can we just start with 10,000 videos? And that blew my mind because
small test of 10,000 videos.
A small test of 10,000 videos. And for me, I was like, we've done 10, but sure, I think we can do that. I asked Andrew about this, and he's like, it's going to take a couple of months to get the technology to that point. And I'm like, okay, that's what I told Marshall from Peel. He's like, that's fine. I can wait a couple of months. I was like, I kept trying to push my luck. So I was like, okay, and you'll need to prepay for the first month today. And he's like, okay, I'll do half. It's like, sure. So that conversation was really interesting. And as soon as he agreed, instead of, I don't even know if we had a formal agreement, I think he just paid for the first half. And we were like, okay, that's good enough for us to know you're serious. And I don't even know if we really had a proper contract. We began working on that, and we really didn't focus on anybody else because we knew that this was going to be a huge deal if we could get it working. We spent a couple of months. We sort of got the whole thing working, did a first batch of a couple hundred videos, and they performed pretty well. At that point, Marshall actually told us that he wanted to invest in the company, which is an amazing sign for a customer to say that to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And he also wanted to do I forget who brought this up, but we wanted to do a joint blog post together about the whole experience. So Marshall has a blog that's really popular in the e-commerce space. So we started collaborating on that. And I think 3 months later, we just completed 10,000 videos, and we launched this blog post. And at that time, I think we only had about 3 customers, and really, you were one of them. We spent a lot of time with you just because, we really just loved working with you, and you were our first customer. So that was always important to us.
Yeah.
And Marshall was another one that we also spent a lot of time on because it was really valuable. At the end of 3 months, we launched this blog post, and just like the Reddit post, this one blew up. It was #1 in a couple of forums. It was reposted in other languages. We had press starting to reach out. So that was an amazing feeling and experience. Again, we got a lot of customers come through and say they wanted to sort of run the same thing from there.
Yeah.
I think that was really the start of everything. It took us a couple of months, but afterwards things have been pretty good. We did raise more funding from venture capital here in Silicon Valley. So now we have, because we were coming up towards that 1-year mark of running out of money.
Yeah.
So we finally were able to increase, our improve our bank account so we can afford more things. We could start to afford to hire people. And it's been a really crazy journey now, exactly 1 year since I met you last year, where we were just coming out of this pivot of this company, and we had almost like our bank account was running out, and we were starting to get demoralized, to now we have almost 8 people on the team spread across the world. We have quite a few customers, a couple dozen customers we work with really closely today. We just crossed, I think we're almost about to hit 100,000 videos we've sent today, which is really exciting.
That's amazing.
So it's been a crazy, crazy, crazy journey. And it all started with that Reddit post a year ago.
Sweet. So if anyone's out there doubting Reddit, nuh-uh.
It's amazing. Yeah, the community is amazing on Reddit.
Yeah. How did you go from you and Andrew to 8 people around the world? Was that planned? Did you, or around the world, did you say? Or
yeah.
So how did you plan that out? Did you add a developer here, add a developer there every once in a while? We need more manpower. Well, or was that okay? For this to go, we need a team of 8, and we're hiring them right now.
Yeah, we're not good planners. We're very reactive. um, no, it was very reactive. It was like, okay, we have all these customers coming in, and I suck at sales because I think I'm almost, I don't know, too nice maybe. I'll take anything that anybody like gives me in terms of a deal because I just want to
Careful,
work with people.
careful what you say now.
No, which is exactly why today, if it's a deal, I'll always loop in our sales guy to help because
Oh.
he hates it when I do. So we hired a salesperson really just because Andrew and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a good salesperson, and I'm also a programmer, and I really just want to spend my time coding. I want to do what I'm best at, and the same thing with Andrew. So like, okay, let's hire somebody on sales. So we did that. Very soon after, Marshall gave us a little bit of money that we could use. After that, as things started to grow, we knew we needed a developer. If we wanted to build a product, so we hired a designer and a developer. And then in terms of remote, really, I used to have really strong thoughts in the past about everything has to be in person. I don't like remote. We need to hire, in person. Obviously, the pandemic forced us to not be able to do that. So you had to be able to hire anywhere. And I think after we started hiring, we hired our designer in Poland. We hired some engineers in India, or just one in the beginning. And it was just everyone's brilliant. The time zones, we were totally able to make that work. And I completely changed my mind about remote. There were not as many downsides. And in terms of just expenses, any money that we're not putting into the office, we're able to spend on our employees in other ways. So we're able to spend like helping them buy good office furniture, microphone, all the stuff at home. We do fly our employees to the US or somewhere every year. So we're able to afford a nice holiday, good Airbnbs or a house or flights, all of those things, because we're not just putting money into this daily office and forcing people to show up in this place. So actually it ended up being like, yeah, we can do all these other things to still make up for the fact that we're not in person. Anyway, I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think
it's a good point though, because a lot of people are still, I don't want to say stuck, because there are businesses that need to be in an office. But if you're working on a product like this, or me as a digital marketer, I can work from anywhere. Why would I be stuck in an office if I can do everything that I would do at the office in my home whenever I want?
Yeah.
It just makes a whole lot more sense to me to work at home. Unless of course, there are jobs that need a central hub where you have to go into the office. But
Yeah.
in our industry, I don't think that's necessary.
No, exactly. It's that's really true. Today, with anything you're doing digitally over the internet, there's no reason. I know companies that are hundreds of employees large, and everyone's remote. They don't even have an office. But
I think Shopify actually told their employees that okay, if you don't want to come back, that's fine. Just work from home. Keep working from home. And I think they're shutting down offices too because of that.
I think a lot of companies realized during the pandemic that it's actually not as bad as it sounds, and for them, it lets them reduce this huge cost that they had otherwise, and renting massive space, having hiring people to take care of the office, clean things, furniture.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And even besides that, our employees have been just loving the fact that they can work from home on their own schedules, because we're all in different time zones. We also, there's no 9 to 5. We have tasks we do. Everyone knows what they're, we're all a team. So whatever you're responsible for that you have to take care of, work in your own time, right? So occasionally Andrew he'll quite often switch between like working at night and sleeping during the day, and just like nocturnal versus awake. And that's fine, because actually if he's nocturnal, that's working hours in India.
Yeah.
So you can really do what you want and work in your own schedule, spend time with your parents if you need to be at home for any reason. If you want to travel, you're free to travel. There's, you don't have to take a month off just to do a vacation. You can do both at the same time. You could fly to Hawaii or Mauritius and work from there, as long as you have a good internet connection, right?
Yeah, exactly. And hotel internet is not always great, but
no, but that's where we'll sometimes offer to help with, like, if you're going to go somewhere where there's bad internet, maybe for a couple of days, we'll get you a WeWork or some sort of co-working space. So we can make up for that. And again, all of those things are cheaper than having a full office. So it actually
Yeah.
plays out really well for us. Yeah.
Awesome. So a team of 8,
Mhm.
one in Poland, 2 in India. You are in where are you now?
One in Poland, two in India. So actually, when I say 8, we're at 7. We actually just hired an 8th person that's going to start in a couple of weeks. Um, I'm the U.S. in San Francisco. I think we have another 3 people. My co-founder. We have 2 other people in the U.S. Our salesperson and our customer support person is also in the U.S.
Yeah.
So 4 and 3. So 4 in the U.S., 3 outside. We're hiring one more person in India, so it's going to be 4 and 4. Yeah.
And when it comes to that growth, because this was all in a span of a year, you went from let's try this product to having a team of 8 working on this product.
Yep.
What was the biggest struggle over this past year getting to the size that you are now?
Yeah, the biggest struggle I think we're still faced today is really keeping up with our sales guy. We find an amazing sales guy who's able to close amazing deals and close them fast. And so our job was trying to scale the product and make sure that we're not dropping a customer experience at the cost of growth. How do we scale? My main problem, the thing that I think about every day, is how do we scale? I guess in a way that's still, I don't know, like reasonable. How do you grow a lot of customers, but in the process, it's so tempting to really just focus on growth and getting more money, but you don't want to lose sight of the customers and give them an amazing experience as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So that's what I focus a lot on, because obviously, first of all, if you have a bad experience, people are not going to stay. It doesn't matter who you close if they're going to leave in a month or 2 months. So
That's
make
it.
sure we have a good experience for them. We have a good product. We can scale the technology. Everything I'm thinking about, how do we handle this new growth that we're getting? And growth has been good even today. So it's just a matter of not dropping quality as we scale. And I think that's so easy for businesses to do. And I think that's the way that businesses fail, is that they see some success and they completely forget about the customer.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and actually there are a few companies in the past, let's say 2 months, that made a business decision that was good for the business on paper, but then the message that was relayed to their customers completely backfired, and now their stock tanked and losing a bunch of high-profile customers
yeah.
because of the way they handled the situation with their customers.
Yep.
So I think that's great that you're focusing on your customers first, and then worry about the business side of it later.
Yeah, there's something that somebody told me a while ago, which was, you have to pick. Actually, I just tweeted about this a couple of days ago, but you have to pick between. There's 3 different things you can pick between at any given time. Is the 3 people I'm responsible to, that I kind of my accountability is to 3 different people: is our investors, our employees, and our customers.
Mhm.
But if you focus on employees or investors and you drop customers, those fail. So basically, without the customers, kind of like to this point, if you start losing high profile customers, your employees don't believe in the company, lose morale and leave, and your investors kind of write you off because you're struggling to grow and no one's going to invest in you going forward. So I don't even worry about the investors. I really do care about our employees, but above all, I care about the customer, because if you do well for them and you can grow, that gives you everything else, right?
Yeah. It's kind of that power of 3, right? Because if you look at web design, for example, there are 3 things you can have. It's, uh, what does it need to be? Good, cheap, or fast? You can pick
Yeah,
2. Like, if you want good and fast, it's not gonna be cheap. If you
yeah,
want cheap and fast, it's not gonna be good.
yeah.
And if it's I forget the other combination, but you get the
Yeah, yeah.
idea.
Yeah, the pick two out of 3 is it used to be like a big meme on Twitter and Reddit, but
Yeah.
it actually makes a lot of sense and applies to a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
So
and it's actually what I use I don't do sales pitches as much, but, if I have a conversation with a client and they want something for cheap, then I'd usually bring this up. Like, "Okay, You can have it cheap, but
Yeah.
keep this in mind. And then I bring this up, and it usually makes sense. If it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to them, I usually walk away.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great way to think about it, and it's funny because sometimes I'll tell investors as well when I'm fundraising. And actually, surprisingly, it's never backfired for me. But I'll tell investors during a call, I'm like, remember, out of this triangle, I'm always going to pick customers and employees over investors. So know that, like, after we like fundraise, you're not my priority. I actually answer to them. I don't answer to you. And I've actually found investors appreciate that. And they're like, yeah, because I always used to be of this mindset that as the CEO, your boss is sort of your investors. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. And a
I
good
think so too.
investor understands that. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If an investor only thinks about himself, then maybe don't take his money.
Don't take his money. No,
Yeah.
exactly. It's that was another thing for us. We were really picky with the investors, even, and I think that was something we just even in the first round, everyone that we raised money from was really good, friends of ours or people that we knew in the network that trusted and believed in us. So
Mhm.
even though the product kind of didn't work for 2 years, they never wrote us off. They were always supportive because, in fact, I remember, again, in hindsight, right? We had one of our first investors, almost 3 years ago. I had a pitch call with him. We got coffee together, and he didn't have the heart to tell me during the meeting that the idea sucked. So he like spends 15 or 20 minutes with me, and he's like, cool, let me think about this. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. He leaves, right? He like bikes back home, and maybe 10 minutes later, I get a message from him, and he's like, hey, Pranay, your idea sucks. But it's like, I don't believe in what you're doing. I don't think it's gonna work. But what I got from that meeting is that you seem really smart and you'll figure something else out. So I'm going to invest in you. I know you're losing. You're spending the next couple, like maybe the next year on the wrong thing. But as soon as you're thinking of changing something, talk to me because I know you will. And it's really funny because he predicted the future 2 years ago.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
okay.
And we,
There are two things in there. So
yeah.
he didn't have the guts to tell you to your face. That tells me like, maybe not a good idea. But then if he messages you right after with the whole prediction, all right, is he still an investor?
Oh, he is, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and I stuck to that when we every single time we thought about like, yeah, this is not working out. I spoke to him, and I got the sense that he was excited about about us changing. No, he's been incredibly like valuable since then. I actually really appreciated that because when he told me that, I knew as a person that I was like, yes, because he's not going to hold me to do this, and if you're failing, because that's the thing with startups. I think you hear all the glamour, but it's always, we spent a lot of time, and even today when I'm hiring, I tell people that our growth's good, our metrics are good, but it's not going to last. I
Yeah.
know there's going to be more downtimes, and if you're going to write us off and leave the company as soon as we struggle with something, like, you're actually not that valuable as an investor or as an employee.
Yeah, that's when you need them.
That's when you need them,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so the right people, I think we've done a good job so far. All of our investors and all of our employees understand that. They're happy with where we are today, but they know I know there's going to be another downtime. It's not a if, it's a when.
Yeah.
um so
So
that's good. Yeah.
and what does the future hold for Windsor? Are you planning to expand on something, or this is the product? There are a lot of companies that have this uh, core product, so to speak, and then from there on out, they keep branching out about and then they water down the actual product. Is I hope that's not the case for you.
No, not at all. It's a really good question because I think there's two schools of thought on that. You could do either. My dad will always tell me that you need to diversify because it's safe, but no, I'm of the belief that if you have a customer you care about, you do everything for them and really focus on that. Yeah, so it all goes back to the customer again. But I think and again, I caveat all of this with we're not good planners, so things will change. But the thing that we're really focused on right now, and I think this will honestly be like a multi-year endeavor anyway, in terms of roadmap, is build out sort of a platform, think of like a CRM something like HubSpot or Salesforce or Mailchimp, one of these large, or Klaviyo, right? One of these large companies that does email marketing, but reimagine what that looks like in a world where you're doing video. So that includes all of the, the deep fake scalable videos, but also includes these one-to-one videos you can send. And the future is really interesting there, because I think a lot of companies try to, you have so many CRMs today trying to compete with sort of the big companies out there.
Yeah.
And usually these things are like 10% or 15% better than what's out there. And it's really tough to compete with, a behemoth like Salesforce or HubSpot.
Yeah.
But our job was, okay, we don't want to compete with them. If anything, we want to collaborate with them. But there's going to be a world really soon where video, and we know this because there's so much social proof here, that people are going to be sending a lot more videos. And the
Yeah.
future is video marketing, not email marketing. And sorry, yeah, I think you were going to say.
Well, it's actually Mailchimp is actually one of those companies that I find lost their way a little.
Uh-huh.
They were fantastic at email marketing, and then they started adding um, what was it? They want to be a CRM now, and they want to be an all encompassing marketing tool.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like, then when they had that little fallout with Shopify, when they didn't want to work with each other
Yeah.
anymore
Yeah.
because of the privacy issues, that's when they lost me as a customer,
That makes
because
sense. Yeah.
they were trying to do something that they uh, didn't start out doing, and I was like, I just need email marketing. Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
expand on stuff that I don't want and raise your prices because of
Right.
that. So um, there are so many features in apps like that I simply don't use. So I just want that one thing that I signed
Yeah.
up for. That's what I want to pay for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So if Windsor stays what it is now, and like an obvious extension of that is like a CRM type of
Yeah.
thing, that
So
makes sense to me.
that's a good point you brought up, actually. And I think the reason you see a lot of these companies doing that is because at some point you can sort of saturate the market on email marketing, or you have this, and the natural next thing is, okay, what other channels can we hit? And we know we have to do that too, because email is good, but email is not the best place for video. Video probably lives better on Instagram and TikTok and SMS and WhatsApp and all these other things, and Signal, right? All these other things where videos perform better. And we've done some tests, but it's the world isn't really built for that yet.
Mhm.
Maybe we can be the change there. But I think these companies, and probably us as well, is you sort of have to start adding these other things. It's still within the same realm, it's the CRM, and you have email and SMS and all these other things. But I think there's a way to do it that's not alienating people and increasing the prices. I think HubSpot does a better job of this in the sales. Well, it's not great because they still charge a
Yeah.
lot. They still charge a lot of money,
It's
but
either free or very expensive.
it's other free way expensive. Yeah. And we use HubSpot, but they're really good at sort of paywalling everything, right? You have the
Yeah.
feature in the app and you hit it and you're like, yes, I need this. And that's when they're like, cool, pay us $500 a month.
Yeah.
New feature. So, but I like the idea where it's, okay, at least I feel like I'm not paying for this massive product when I only use one feature, which is kind of what you talk about a little bit, is I just want to do
Yeah.
email marketing. I don't want to pay for the fact that you've built SMS marketing. I think there's a way to do this similar to the HubSpot model where you pick and choose, right? So you use the product, you get the bare essentials. You can do videos at scale with Windsor. But hey, you also want to send them an SMS? Okay, let's just use that instead, or pay for this additional, just to do that. And
Yeah.
everybody else who doesn't care about SMS marketing doesn't pay for it. What we've been thinking kind of is really usage based, right? So if
Yeah.
you start using Windsor and you want to start trying SMS, ideally you don't have to go pay another $500 a month. It's just like, cool, SMSs are, I don't know, let's just say like a couple cents or $1 per SMS or something. I don't know what the cost is going to
Yeah.
be, but
Whatever the number is.
whatever
Yeah.
the number is. And then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool, for you, it's cool. Let me just test it out. Let me just send out like 10 and you're only paying a couple of cents. And if you like it, you scale, and it's just based on usage. So you have all these options available. The whole platform is available to you.
Yeah.
And then if you use a feature that's you kind of just like agree to pay that amount, you can try it out at a small scale, see how it works, and then everything works sort of magically. That's and that's how I've been thinking about it. And the inspiration there comes from Stripe. Um,
Yeah.
Stripe does something very similar. They have a bunch of products, but you start with one, which is you want to charge people on a credit card. How do you do that? And they're like, okay, charge people on a credit card. It's like 20 cents or something per transaction plus 2% or 1%, I forget, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to try out if you want to start sending people invoices, then every invoice will cost this much. So I can just send, and by the way, you have 10 invoices free per month or something like that. Great way to start sort of testing this other functionality and make me a more involved, bigger customer of Stripe without giving me this huge like HubSpot paywall in my face, pay
Yeah.
us $500 more. So I like
Yeah.
that.
Cool. Well, I'm not going to take more of your time because you probably have other stuff to do.
Yeah, no, I
But
appreciate that.
I appreciate your time, and I definitely want to revisit Windsor again. Goodbye to everyone that's listening and watching, and yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.
Yep.